genre.
To the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
Yea, verily, forsooth, I am Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And yay, verily, forsooth. Today on the show, we'll be discussing the Shakespeare Code, the 10th Doctor's 13th story.
Shut your big fat mouths.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shakespeare Code, which was the second episode of Series 3, which aired on April 7th, 2007, and was directed by Charles Palmer, who also directed the Series 3 opener. Smith and Jones, and written by Gareth Roberts. It was his first script for the show, having previously basically worked on every other conceivable type of Doctor Who thing because he was desperate to write for the show. So he had written for Big Finish. He had written for the Doctor Who Virgin line of original Doctor Who stories that were coming out during the dark time of the show not being around, and had written some webisodes and things like that. Basically anything that he could get his hands on to write for Doctor Who. And then finally, Russell T Davies said, "Why don't you write an episode this season?" And Russell T, we've talked about this lots of times, but and it's one of the things that I by the time the listeners are hearing this, we'll have already seen Series 2 of the new show. But one of the things that I'm looking forward to going into it is to see how, if we can figure out if Russell T once again has formed a sort of loose outline for the season of how the types of episodes that happen in a particular order. Because as we've talked about many times, he definitely does in these first 4 series. And this one in particular was this is going to be our third celebrity historical, which is what he referred to these stories, starting with the Charles Dickens story in Series 1 and the Queen Victoria episode from Season 2. And now Shakespeare in Season 3, and Russell knew that Gareth Roberts was a big Shakespeare fan, and was pitch me a story with Shakespeare at it. And he came up with the whole there's this conspiracy. Shocker that a TERF would believe in a conspiracy. That there's a conspiracy that Shakespeare wrote a play called Love's Labour's 1, that no one has any there's no play attached to it, but the title shows up all the time, and it couldn't possibly be the play that he wrote around this time called Much Ado About Nothing. That just makes that doesn't make any sense, right? So it's not like authors change titles of things that they're working on. So he was let's talk about this. Let's make it about the lost play, and let's introduce, because if we set it pre Macbeth, we can introduce the sort of origin of the witches from Macbeth, the inspiration for them or whatever, and we can just load this thing up with like, inspiration for plays he hasn't written yet and make it a wacky Doctor Who Shakespeare adventure. And that was it. He wrote it and he had it set at the Globe Theater. That was the time period that they wanted it to be, is like early in the Globe Theater days before it burns down, and is rebuilt a year later. But in order to do that, they couldn't build a set that intricate to look like the Globe Theater, so they needed to get permission to actually shoot at the Globe Theater. And they got it, and then the Globe Theater kind of reneged because they were like, this is going to be a lot more of a pain in the ass for you guys, for us, with you guys here, than we were expecting. And they kind of reneged, and they had to do like a hasty rewrite of the episode where the Shakespeare Company would still be a traveling troupe, which they were in the early days, but then suddenly like a lot of the dates and things didn't make any sense anymore, and they were like, God, I really hope this Globe thing works out. And they finally found some dates where the Globe was would allow them to do overnights at the Globe, but only overnights. And I think that scene at the end where the Queen shows up and it's daytime in the theater is like cheated with like lights and things like that to make it seem like it's daytime, even though it's really not. It's like the middle of the night or something like that. So yeah, they figured that out, and the episode came out. Originally, it was going to just be called Love's Laborers 1, and then it was changed to Theater of Death, as like a real kind of like classic Who throwback title.
Yeah.
And then eventually, Davies being Davies was like, wouldn't it be cute if we just made it a riff on the Da Vinci Code? And he did. So now it's called the Shakespeare Code, and that's it. Otherwise, pretty much business as usual. On a Doctor Who episode, nothing too crazy. But this did start a long relationship with the show and Gareth Roberts, unfortunately. A relationship that is now over, I believe. I don't think he's written an episode since the last time we talked about him, which was like that bad 12th Doctor one. The
Caretaker?
Caretaker, yeah. I think that was his last. I think that was his last episode that he ever wrote for the show. But it is weird that we didn't even know what a TERF was at the time, and yet the TERF writer wrote a joke, a gag about another TERF writer. That is just weird. That is weird. It's weird that happened. It's a very strange coincidence.
Right? It's funny.
Yeah, it's very strange. But Shakespeare Code, I don't know about you guys, but this is always one that I've thought of pretty fondly. It's kind of like a silly, like a real like kind of B- of an episode where you're like, yeah, like that's just like right down the middle, exactly what you want, an episode that isn't going to be like, you're not going to be jumping through hoops for, like, yeah, that was amazing. But it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool, great. Just like a real down the middle kind of Doctor Who story. And watching it this time, it's still okay. There's some stuff that bugs me about it that we'll talk about. I mean, the Martha stuff is its own can of worms that they thought they were probably doing a service by doing what they did with her in this story at the time in 2007. It doesn't really hold up to much scrutiny by today's standards, but it is what it is. I guess it's a product of its time. But there's like plot mechanical stuff in this that I'm not super fond of. But we'll get there.
Mechanicals?
Yeah. Plot mechanical stuff.
Like that's sorry. That was a Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh,
all the Shakespeare nerds listening.
Yeah. But what did you guys think of rewatching this one? Cass, how about you?
I still have a lot of fun with this one. I kind of tuned out at the climax of the plot. But I really like I really like Martha in this. I really like just like the vibes. It's like silly and goofy, and
Mhm.
I don't know. It's kind of cozy in its way. There are things where I'm like, ooh, but like there's a line. I'm sure we'll get to it, and I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense now. But overall, I had fun revisiting this.
Nick?
Yeah, pretty much echoing what Cass said, like, and what Scott said. This episode, 2000, April 2007, this was square plumb in the period where Doctor Who was just like my favorite show in the world, maybe even more than Lost. And like, I loved every Friday night on Sci-Fi, just settling onto my couch and seeing what fun Doctor Who adventure I was getting this week,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the vibes this episode. It's like they say with television, you're checking in on your friends and you're going on a fun adventure with friends. So yeah, very cozy, very fun, very silly, not like, wow, it's on a banger, but it's full of fun moments that I now remember more in GIF form on Tumblr.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like, oh, this episode does have a lot of fun moments for Whovians of this era. And so, yeah, it's an episode I can't help but have a lot of affection for, despite its down the middleness.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, so let's hop into the I guess the walkthrough of this episode, Nick, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, again, just a solid, so many Doctor Who episodes open like this. So many more will continue. Question mark? I don't know. Have we phased out of character getting killed off in the cold open to set up what the monster is? Like, this almost feels like a throwback now. Again, we haven't seen season 2 yet, time of recording, but
there had to have been an episode in series 1 that did that, right?
for sure.
Did I want to say Dot and Bubble maybe?
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe?
Dot and Bubble. I haven't thought about that one in a while. That one was crazy.
Yeah. I don't remember if anyone actually dies in the cold open, but like the mystery is set up.
I'm pretty sure I can almost picture like, someone getting sucked into their computer or whatever was happening in that. But yeah, we open with a young man playing the lute at the windows, below the window of a maiden, being like, bitch, I ain't ever gonna stop loving you, bitch.
And she's like, shit, man, you want to get laid? And he's like, fuck yeah.
He practically looks in the camera and is like, finally, I've been doing that for like 3 weeks. And then, he goes into the room, but then they all turn out to be a coven of witches, and they rip him apart. And it's like pretty violent for a children's show.
Yeah. Fun little detail about this set. They saved this set after filming this and put it on ice and then slightly redressed it, and it became Sarah Jane's attic, where like it was like basically like her TARDIS set on the Sarah Jane Adventures.
That's cute.
So, yeah. So that's kind of fun.
That's fun. I love economical Doctor Who.
Yeah, me too.
So when the witches are like, soon, tonight, soon we will have our vengeance. We will be back, and we're off to the races. I think it's really funny. We cut back to the TARDIS, and this is like immediately after Smith and Jones. Oh, it's a right pleasure to meet you, Dr. Smith. Or Dr. Jones. And so, Martha's a brand new companion, and Doctor's, okay, one trip. I promised you one trip, and now I'm going to show you. I think it's really funny that he was like, all right, when we step through this door, you're about to enter a brave new world of London. Where we just were. But yeah, it's the 1600s. I thought it was kind of, I liked the detail of, as soon as they step out, you see someone up on a window dumping their bucket of excrement out the window, and then and Freema Agman, Martha. That was weird. I forgot her name for like a second. And Martha's like, whatever, you see worse at the night shift at a hospital. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, right. Like you're a doctor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So listeners, it's kind of funny because we recently watched the episode we're going to talk about next season, Gridlock.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty recently. So Gridlock is somewhat fresh in my mind. So I have a little bit more plot sympathy for how aloof and jerky the doctor is in these opening moments where he kind of doesn't have a lot of patience for Martha. And it's like, yeah, she's like, whoa, am I going to be okay? And he's like, why wouldn't you be okay? What's wrong? What's the problem? She's like, well, I'm black. Like, oh, I don't see color. Fucking look, there's black people right there. And it's like, God, what a dick. But I'm like, oh, but that's what Gridlock kind of resolves, is like him realizing that he's being kind of a dick right now,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, but I will say, like, all of the stuff about Martha being black is constantly pointed out, but also like not really remarked upon in any meaningful way. So it's like it's so surface level that it's kind of like, why are we even bringing it up then? And yeah, so that
it's like it's pointed out to be written off immediately.
Yeah, right. Like, well, we know the commenters are gonna fucking mention this, so I guess we'll bring it up and then be like, fuck you for even bringing it up. You, whatever. Race doesn't matter. No, we see no color. It's 2007. You're like, okay. We're gonna America's gonna have a black president soon. I don't know. Like,
he's gonna give a speech that'll save the economy.
Right. I don't know what the thought process here is, but it feels like, it just feels like Russell just being like, I don't want to deal with any of this, but I know that I kind of have to. So I guess this is how we're just gonna have Shakespeare flirt about it all the time, with like weird terminology.
It's interesting. Like, Who was only in my brain like a couple of years old, so I never really made much mental note of Martha being the first black companion in Who. And now that I think about it, the last black companion until Ryan.
Yes.
Oh wait, no, Bill then Ryan.
Oh, Bill.
Oh,
yes.
Bill. Right. Bill. Yeah. Bill.
Bill.
Also, she's not the first because technically Mickey's the first.
Oh yeah.
Technically
Mickey.
I know we don't like to say it, but
the name of his Broadway one-man show, technically Mickey. But yeah, no. So they're walking around, and then the doctor's like, "Look, it's a Globe Theater," and she's like, "Get out! Is Shakespeare in there?" And he's like, "Yeah, Shakespeare's in there." Like, let's go see him. Let's go see Shakespeare. And they do. Cass, are you familiar with the tradition of yelling out author after a show? Me neither. I wonder if that's like a Britain thing.
Must be, right?
I think the joke is like she because she wants to see Shakespeare, and so she like starts that, and then she's like, wait, is that a thing? And he's just like, well, I guess it is now.
Okay. The way she's like, wait, do people say author? My brain was like, oh, is that a thing people already say in the present times?
I think so, but I think it is like a Britain thing. I don't think that's something you could do in like off Broadway or something. Certainly not Broadway proper, but I don't think
you'll get
I don't
shot.
think even off Broadway you could do that.
Escorted out.
Somebody just comes out and be like, "They're not here. What do you?"
Tracy, let's. It's
going to see like a Hamilton tour group and just being like, author,
bring him out.
I know he's here.
Just Lin-Manuel Miranda lurking in the rafters, like the
he's at every Hamilton show. How do you have time for everything you do?
And then we get the moment where Shakespeare comes out, and the joke of Doctor being like, oh, there he is, the most human to ever live. Oh, he had such a way with words. Just like, quiet, Martha. Let's see what he says. And he's like, get off, you fucking cunt. So,
yeah.
And Martha's
There
like,
you
I
go.
should never meet your heroes. What do we think of the guy playing Bill Shakespeare in this?
I'm pro hot Shakespeare. He has, I don't know, he's got like a lot of charisma.
Yeah, that's true.
The Riz.
I mean, I think it like he's good for like what they're doing with this character. You know, like I think there's a lot of worlds in which like he would be terrible casting for this, and I think I remember it being a pretty controversial choice at the time, but it's like, well, their goal was to do exactly this, so this makes sense.
What was controversial about it? Like his looks, or
that he was like young and attractive, and just didn't look like what people have like envisioned as Shakespeare, which was just like Edgar Allan Poe with like a thing around his neck. Like that's how everybody like pictured Shakespeare. So
with like the hairline.
Yeah, the hairline and the thing, the beard thing, the goatee thing, right? Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I think he rides that line of like, Shakespeare in his time was a populist. He was writing for the masses. He wasn't seen as like a pretentious creator in his day. So I like that he kind of seems like a man of the people. And yeah, like he's roguish. When he hits on Martha, it's kind of seen as like rascally and rakish as opposed to like creepy. Mostly, besides the race stuff, of course. But yeah, and I think Martha and Shakespeare have pretty good chemistry in this.
Yeah.
I think she rides that line of like, "Stop hitting on me! Come on, knock it off!" But like, she's like a little into it because it's Bill
also controversial to point out, maybe, but like, I don't know. I think that Freema Agyeman is doing a really good job of having this like one-sided chemistry with 10, like romantic chemistry with 10, where you're like, you get why she likes him and you understand that she's like really attracted to him, and also understand like how disappointed she is that it's not being reciprocated in any way whatsoever. But like, I think all of that works for me, especially as like a response to everything that happened with Rose.
Right.
I think it works for me. I don't know. I really like it. That scene where they're like in bed together and she keeps like giving him bedroom eyes and he's like just like staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done. I don't know.
Well, there's that because he's talking about how, I don't know, they're kind of like really hitting you over the head with it, right? Because like she's like, they're like facing each other and he's talking about how he can't see what's in front of him. Like, and then he's like, Rose would know. And it's like, oh damn, okay.
Yeah.
So, and I want to bring that up because like I get what Gareth Roberts is doing, and I appreciate how we're not just like never bringing up the companion again. Like there is residual like emotion. I don't want to say trauma, but like residual after effects of like losing Rose the way that he did. That being said, the line "Rose would know" is hilarious because bullshit. Rose would know.
She wasn't even old enough to drink in America by the time she left the TARDIS.
Rose would have had this fucking sorted. But no, it's funny because I think for Martha's POV, the Doctor is kind of like part of the novelty of this adventure that she's on. Like she sort of has this sort of Disneyland kind of vibe of like, this Shakespeare, oh yeah, she's drinking the Kool-Aid, and part of it is like, oh, and there's this hot guy that I'm in bed with, and like maybe I can like we can make out a little bit before he like takes me back home. She's not like I'm devoted to you companion mode yet. She's still like, yeah, this is like a lark.
Right.
But to backtrack a little bit, we meet Shakespeare and we get kind of like the info dump that Scott was alluding to, the idea, because like back at the Globe, Shakespeare's like hyping up his next play, Love's Labour's Won, a sequel to Love's Labour's Lost, and the Doctor's like, oh no, this play was never performed. It's one of Shakespeare's lost plays. There's a theory that this was like one of his lost plays. So something's going on. Like this play is not supposed to go up. And then we meet the master of revels, who's like, this play will, what are you doing? I had a season scheduled and you just dropped this on me. Mark my words, Love's Labor's One will never see the stage.
Nothing about that fucking guy makes any sense to me whatsoever.
The master of revels.
Yeah, because I'm just sort of like, what do you mean never see the light of day? Why? Like, like, are you like head of the actors union? Like, what is your issue with them putting on this other play? I don't know.
I think he's just petty middle management guy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish we called Fran Drescher the master of revels.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say the head of the whole like part of this, which is that he's writing a play overnight. And then the actors are learning the full-size Shakespearean play like in a few hours before performing it that night is either like very impressive if that was the kind of thing that they were used to doing, or the most unbelievable part of this entire episode, because that's completely insane.
It does hurt my brain to think about, like, I mean, maybe if that is an exaggeration, like it probably isn't too much of an exaggeration, and just the idea that they only had like, but I guess actors do that now, where they can just like, like soap opera actors, I guess they say have to like memorize chunks of dialogue in like a day or.
Yeah, but that's like, they might have 2 scenes in an episode of a soap opera. This is like an entire play that they have to perform live and only once. It's not like they get multiple takes, in case they mess up a line or something. And it as we see it later performed, there's no logic to what they're saying. It's just a bunch of random words. And so it's like, how do you even go about memorizing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the scene that has all the sci-fi gibberish in it is like the final scene.
Mm-hmm.
So like the rest of it's just like, I don't know, like a farce, like a typical comedy, I think.
I guess so.
Like from the little glimpses you see of the play being performed later on in the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I feel bad for these actors who have to like memorize like a 5-act play in like 3 hours.
Yeah. That is insane.
But so I know, and then it's but there's that joke later on of like the actor being like, and look at this last bit. It didn't even make any sense. Like it's a coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Bill's Bill. That's what they say.
Yeah, that part of it. So that's the part of it that really bothers me, because they go out of their way where they talk about how like, oh, like these witches are aliens, and humans use math to do all this crazy stuff. They use language, they use words to do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then the stuff that they've written into the play to make the magic end of the worldy sky beam happen is a bunch of numbers and fucking like I just like, I'm like, oh come on, like you didn't even need Shakespeare for this. Like you could have given it to like any royal or something making a public address. Why did this need to be Shakespeare? It's so silly. That's the part of it that I'm like, it bugs me, because I'm like, I wish it was poetic in some way, and that was what made it happen, but instead it's just a bunch of numbers and just like a generic kind of like spell spoken like a Shakespeare sonnet.
Yeah, because like aside from the rhyme, like I don't even know if the meter is correct, like if you want to get like really
yeah. Right, so that part of the plot just really falls apart for me, and it's always the part of this episode that I'm the most disappointed in, because I'm like, man, you have like you're suggesting a cool idea, and then you kind of just like whiff it at the end by making him, have a sonnet of a bunch of numbers.
No, for sure. And so, no, but it's a good note. So, like, to backtrack a little bit. So Martha's like, oh, well, that's cool. The Master of Revels just like, canceled the show. So history saved, right? But then the Master of Revels is killed because the witch from the cold open has like a strand of his hair that he took from him when he bumped into him, and is using the strand of hair as like kind of like a voodoo doll equivalent, kind of closest proxy I can think of to like drown the Master of Revels, and then he dies. And and again, to go through cool detail, like Martha rushes to help this guy too because she's an actual doctor. It's not just a bullshit nom de guerre like the doctor,
right?
And so, but they're both like, this is crazy. Like, this guy drowned, but he wasn't. He was in the middle of the street, and they investigate, and they go to the globe, and they're like, the globe. Why are there 14 points? And then the doctor's like, oh, well, like the drama theater, it's just words and shapes. Like math is just like numbers and words, but it you can split the atom with math. And is that not theater? And so they learn that there's a guy, the guy who designed the globe fell victim to madness and started speaking of witches. And like, well, let's go visit him. So they visit the Bedlam house. We learn about the doctor. We learned that Bill Shakespeare had a son. That son died, and he almost went mad, but fear of the Bedlam house kept him from going insane. Which is like, set up for later. They meet the dude. They meet like the guy who designed the Globe Theater. And this is when we get like kind of like what Scott was saying, which is like, oh, like magic is just words and like, the right combination of words can make a spell. So that's why they're going after Bill Shakespeare, because he's like the greatest wordsmith of all time. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate that it is kind of like, it's like Gareth Roberts almost like ran out of steam and just kind of, because like, yeah, they could have got Queen Elizabeth, they could have gotten anybody, just like say these coordinates out loud theoretically, and like it would have worked. There really didn't need to be any kind of like power or romance or scansion to the words, the spell.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, we have to get William Shakespeare to write these words, and it's like, but you didn't. You like hypnotized him and you pulled out your little marionette and you made the marionette write the words. So like he doesn't even remember writing the words because he didn't actually write he wrote them with his hand, but like he didn't like come up with the words. So there's no like Shakespearean flair to the words. It's just what you told him to write when you made your little spell. So like it's very disappointing, I think.
Like I know it's so much more involved, but like, can you imagine like, I don't know, like the numbers or the coordinates or whatever being like interspersed throughout like different verses, and then like, when they're all said, then the whatever. I know that's way harder to do in a TV show than in like a novel, but like.
Well, but I mean,
it's also a code. Like that's a Shakespeare code.
Right.
I can picture what you're saying though, and you just have them say a line in the sonnet, and then like one of the points lights up.
Yeah. And like one of the 14 little deca, whatever the heck.
Yeah,
the
and then you just see as the play progresses, the more lights like light up as they're saying stuff.
Yeah,
and like that's. Yeah, you could have totally done that, and that would have been way more interesting than just blurting it all out at the end.
Yeah.
There is this fun bit while they're running around, and the doctor or Martha keeps getting hit on by William Shakespeare, and then
relentless.
And then the doctor's like, "Oh, there'll be time for flirting later." And Shakespeare's like, "Ooh, you promise?" And the doctor's like, "Oh, 57 academics just punched the air."
Okay.
By Shakespeare confirmed. Great. Yeah. Maybe the best joke in the episode. So yeah, and then there's this cool moment where the doctor is able to name the witch. She's like the Mascarian. I don't know. Like I forgot the
a Carrionite.
A Carrionite. Thank you, Cass.
You're welcome.
I name you Carrionite, and the witch is like, ah! It's like that scene from Smiling Friends.
Yeah, like Rumpelstiltskin.
Like Rumpelstiltskin or Mr. Mixel-Pitlick.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe he's canon.
Maybe. God, could you imagine? That's That's a good crossover comic. Doctor Who and Superman going up against Mr. Mxyzptlk. That's good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so it's like, oh yeah, they were aliens, and the way that we use math, they use like what we call magic, but it's really just like, combination of words and numbers equals stuff happening, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Shakespeare tries to stop the play, but then they like voodoo him, and they're like, oh, he's, and then the players of the play are like, oh, Bill's drunk, everybody. And everyone's like, fuck yeah, he is.
Do they ever, did I miss it, or was there not a joke about him losing his hair?
I don't think there was.
Wow, that's so surprising. That feels like such a
very obvious
joke of just like about like, hey, enjoy that hairline while it lasts, buddy, or like something,
It's like, what?
Yeah.
And and there's like a running joke of the doctor saying like, oh, all the world's a stage, and the doctor and Shakespeare's like, say that again.
Yeah. I like the one where where he says one of those things, and he's like, oh, I like that. He's like, you can't have it. That's someone else's.
Oh yeah, it's like Rage Against the Dying of the Light.
Yeah. He's like, you can't have that one.
I liked the one where he's like, oh, that's good, and he's like, oh wait, that's one of mine. Like it takes him a second to like process that. Like...
Yeah. I also like that he is a little thief, and he's like thieving stuff, because that like goes to that other theory that like the very Da Vinci Code-esque Shakespeare theory, which is that, he was just like a bunch of writers, and he was just stealing from all of them and calling himself Shakespeare, which is, probably bullshit. But like, I like that it's in here to just be like, well, I don't know, maybe.
And then there's that adage, right? Like geniuses steal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the little detail of he doesn't fall for the psychic paper.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that, and I like the doctor being embarrassed about the reason for it because of what it says about Martha. where he's just like, she's like, what do you mean? It says my name right there on the thing, and he's like, it's a psychic paper. He can't see it because he's a genius. We'll explain it later. He just like puts it away. He just doesn't want her to realize that like she's just not, at the level that Shakespeare is, and can't see through the paper the way he can, despite being a doctor,
Which is interesting, like, to have like a kind of a nerdy, pedantic. It's always interesting when they decide who the psychic paper doesn't work on, because sometimes it's because they're really smart, but then also it's because sometimes they're like, it's almost kind of like Tom Bombadil logic, where sometimes they're just like thick enough to where they don't really register it,
Yeah, their brain is just clear of all thought. Yeah.
It's so smooth.
Yeah. His brain is too smooth for the psychic paper to work.
But yeah, they interrupt the stay. The doctor gets voodooed and gets stabbed through a heart, because the alien doesn't know that the doctor has two hearts. So there's that fun bit of, anytime David Tennant gets to do a bit of like physical comedy in this show, it always sings.
Very true.
And that's how Martha learns that the doctor has two hearts.
Yeah.
She knew about it last time because the doctor was in the hospital and she was like looking at his chart.
Totally.
And was like, what the? This dude's got two hearts. So it's funny that it comes up like 2 episodes in a row.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. It's so they intercept the theater, they stop the play, and while we do get Skybeam, like before Skybeam was Skybeam, I like the detail of the wraithy wailing witches like swirling in a vortex. I still think that looks cool.
Yeah. I like that too. I wouldn't mind this species coming back. I think there's more shit to mine here.
I was actually thinking about the new series while watching this because it feels very like proto series.
Magic is real.
Yeah, magic is real, and like whatever the Eternals are, like banished them to the ends of the universe, and like it feels very in line with what he's exploring now, which was kind of fun.
No, I mean, and so to skip to the end, after they, Expelliarmus and banish all the witches, they're still on the TARDIS because like they're trapped in the crystal ball, and the Doctor's like, I'm gonna keep. They had this really dark thought because like we cut to like an external of like the River Thames, and I'm like, is he just gonna drop the crystal ball into the Thames? That would be fucked up.
This is the second time he's used that river to genocide.
The old genocide river. My old friend, the Thames. But no, they're on the TARDIS. So I was like, oh, they could. This isn't like a very beloved episode, but like they could just come back. Like they could just like get loose, or this race could. I also like how at the very beginning, the Doctor is like, "Ooh, this is witchcraft," Like we learn what he means when he says witchcraft. Is he already kind of like, well, no, they're not like witches. They're like aliens that use magic. But I just like, oh man, we would have spent half of this episode with him, like with his arms crossed, being like, witches aren't real. There's no such thing as magic.
This is so stupid. You're all so stupid with your stupid monkey brains.
But times like, yeah. Magic.
Yeah, it's magic. I don't know.
Wrapping it up, we get the scene in the globe. I didn't know it was day for night. I really like Martha's kind of face lighting up when she realizes that that famous love sonnet may have been about her.
Yeah.
That was really cute.
Yeah. There's just like this glimmer of like, wait a minute, holy shit. It's really good.
And then I wanted to ask you guys about this. So, there's they hang a lantern on while they're getting ready for the show. They're like, well, you never know, Bill, like, the queen might show up, and like she never shows up. And then it's like, she was there last night, and she's here to tell you good job for banishing those witches. And then as soon as Elizabeth I sees the Doctor, she's like, you. And the Doctor's like, what? Like, kill him. And he's like, what? They're running, and Martha's like, what did you do? And he's like, I don't know, I haven't met her yet. And I'm like, oh, is this brought back in Day of the Doctor?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. That is how they pay it off, is with the Day of the Doctor stuff. So they're like, what could have possibly have made her so mad? And it's like, well, he said that he would marry her and then didn't. But still apparently laid with her. Which
scoundrel.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
I'll lay you badly, but I'll lay you gladly.
Wow. Well, anyway. I think that's that. That's Shakespeare Code. Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to revisit this era, especially now that we're in the RTD2 era. It's fun, like seeing how things have changed and also how things have stayed the same.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I might rewatch this again. It's fun. Like it really just feels like if it's like a cup of hot chocolate of an episode, But I had fun with it.
All right. Well, next time, revisiting another era. That's the Curse of the Black Spot.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We'll
next
get into
time.
it.
We'll talk about it next week. Yep. Bye, everybody.